Oh, so people that the government approves tell companies what they can allow on their platform and what they can't, right?
That's correct, sir.
And the same people who approved these folks are the same people who conducted the workshop and said, we need to take back our country's hate speech. Is that fair to say? Now, Mr. Farage, it's not just civil penalties, though. And this is where it gets really scary. Because my understanding is there's criminal penalties, and I think in 2023, in the United Kingdom, there were 12,183 arrests for offensive posts.
In March, the Trump administration revoked her student visa, sent masked men to kidnap and disappear her, forcing her into an unmarked car, and detained her for 45 days.
It's certainly a kind of extensive use of the term of jawboning that has come up over the last several years. And it's a kind of pressure that absolutely interferes with free speech. And it's also the kind of weaponizing of our federal agencies in support of a particular actor, a particular business person.
It seems to me that these actions affect not just the companies or the individuals that are the target of this abuse, but they're also to scare off everyone else from engaging in that behavior. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what we're seeing right now with just this essentially a kind of avalanche of restrictions and intimidations of free speech in this country, that it's designed to chill that kind of debate. It's designed to chill whistleblowers, to chill scientists, to chill professors and students. I think that's essentially what we're witnessing right now.
My time has expired, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Generally yields back.
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent.
You see a request from Gentleman Calford?
Yes, I ask unanimous consent that the Politico ad or news that was dated June 27, 2025, saying Gavin Newsom sues for $787 million be placed in the record.
Without objection. Mr. Price, has anything in the Digital Services Act changed in the last year?
No, sir.
Hasn't been amended, hasn't been changed at all?
No, sir.
So everything Mr. Breton wrote 1 year ago today, well, August 12, 2024, that's still in place, where he said to an American running an American company about an interview that was yet to happen, future happening interview, threatened this individual. None of that nothing in the law has changed that would change what actions this individual took.
Nothing in the law.
Just because Mr. Breton's gone doesn't mean Ms. Verkunen can't do the same darn thing, right?
Precisely.
Yeah, and that's the concern. Mr. Price, is this statement, we need to take back our country, is that statement hate speech?
We don't really know what hate speech is. It's so vague, and that's the problem with it. I wouldn't regard that as hate speech.
Well, you may not, but the EU regulators do, because they had a workshop on May 25th where, this is part of our investigation, material we'd subpoenaed, they gave us this information. They said it is hate speech. That's a concern, right?
Yes, sir.
And it could be made by an American to be termed hate speech, and there could be some ramifications for Americans' First Amendment liberties. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Price, what's a trusted flagger?
A trusted flagger is an NGO or a private organization that's recognized under the DSA, and if they identify or a complaint has been made...
Wait. Recognized by who?
Oh, the terms of the DSA. Oh, and the national regulators and the commission as well.
Okay, and they do what? So they're recognized by the government. They're approved by the government.
Yes,
all right? And what do?
If they identify content that they regard as illegal content, the companies have to give priority to removing that content.
Oh, so people that the government approves tell companies what they can allow on their platform and what they can't, right?
That's correct, sir.
And the same people who approved these folks are the same people who conducted the workshop and said, we need to take back our country's hate speech. Is that fair to say?
That's correct, sir.
Yeah, and that's the concern. And what happens if these trusted flaggers approved by the government, the same government that says we need to take back our country is hate speech? By the way, I think that statement is made probably more by Democrats right now than Republicans. I think the head of the Democrat National Committee made that statement like 3 months ago at a big Democrat rally or something they were having. So the same people who say that's hate speech approve the trusted flaggers, who then tell the platforms what they can and can't have on their platform. And if they don't agree with what the trusted flaggers say, there's civil penalties. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Both under national law and the DSA, investigations begin, and there's a whole process that can result in enforcement and then ultimately crippling fines for companies.
And those crippling fines, those civil penalties can be what, 5%, 10% of global revenue, depending on the Online Services Act or the DSA?
Under the DSA, 6%.
6%? Wow, that's a lot of money because these are big companies, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And firstly, I was pleased to join on the Codell. And it was a very fine, good Codell. I appreciate the chair, my friend and my classmate from 2006. One of the things I found most heartening about the Codel, we had a tour of Parliament, and along with us were two conservative members who were, I think they were either in the House of Lords, maybe one was in the Lords and one was in the House of Commons, but they talked to us about Magna Carta and about how it's the basis of our laws, and there was a copy there and copies here and there and whatever, but how precious the Magna Carta is. And they suggested to us that a legislator, this was in the House of Lords where he spoke, that a legislator is not somebody who votes. A legislator's job is not just to vote. A legislator's job is to stand up to an out-of-control executive. Very telling for British Parliament members to instruct us on what we should be doing, and I thank him for that. I'm a strong supporter of free speech and always have been, but I find this hearing a bit disingenuous because of the problems we have here in America. Free speech includes the speech of those with whom we disagree, people who say vile things, and in my case, I find racist and anti-Semitic and Islamophobic type speech is something I find foul, but it's protected by free speech and offensive speech as well. That does not mean that there aren't limitations, however, and speech can be harmful, dangerous, and infringe on other people's rights. It isn't a free-for-all, though. And the U.S. in our First Amendment does not have a monopoly on what constitutes free speech. There is speech protected by the First Amendment, like corporate political donations, which I think is misplaced and misapplied. And there are times when our legal system itself suppresses disfavored speech. I passed the Speech Act in the 111th Congress. I think Mr. Issa was my co-sponsor, and it dealt with the fact that Britain is a favored nation for defamation actions, and it's easy to get a defamation judgment there. We would not allow those judgments to be recognized here in our country under the Speech Act if the activities that took place did not conform to our laws on free speech. And I would think Mr. Farage should try to look at changing their laws on defamation and contour more to what we see in the First Amendment. And that might be good for the people in England. Two of my good friends, most revered friends, were from England, London, Christopher Hitchens and Sir Bill Browder. And they've written books, and they could be subject to such laws as well. But work on protecting your English authors, who, from Shakespeare on, they've been pretty good. We used to be bipartisan in these efforts to look out for free speech, but President Trump has taken on free speech in ways that would never been thought about. And I think Mr. Lofgren brought some points to Professor Kay. And it's not just laws, it's autocratic actions as well. President Trump, as Mr. Dalio said clearly, but so many other people have said it, felt it, is bringing us on the verge of an autocratic state. And his actions in trying to bring law firms to their knees, colleges to their knees, federal employees, students, et cetera, is anti-free speech, anti-opportunity, and fear for themselves and their futures if they speak out. Even Congress people could be subject in the future, I'm sure, with some of the ways we're seeing this Justice Department act with questions about their speech. Our president has sued every broadcasting company almost, and they've gone after CNN, they've gone after NBC, and they pick some of these fringe people to pick on the Ukrainian president about his attire. It's bizarre what's going on in our country, and I'm concerned. They try to silence and shake down those who don't conform to whatever the president thinks. We need to understand that his review of the Smithsonian exhibits and other African American museum and saying there was too much emphasis on how bad slavery was. I don't know how you could find anything good about slavery, and Edwin Starr, who's a singer, would tell you slavery, like war, there's absolutely nothing good about it. So we shouldn't be trying to. Professor Kay, how would you compare, from your expertise, how we evaluate and compare with relative states of freedom of expression written in the United States? Where do you see the comparisons?
Well, I think right now we're at a very dismal place in the United States, but I do think that it's also worth thinking a bit about some of the issues that Mr. Farage raised. So, for example, he mentioned the issue of a law against Islamophobia. But, there's also a lot of discussion about laws against anti-Semitism and against other attacks on people on their status, on the basis of their religion and so forth. Those are actually valuable conversations to have. But you can't just sort of pick and choose which censorship or which restrictions are okay and which are not. You really need to have a general view as to what's appropriate. And I think, again, the chairman's point about censorship being a focus on criticism is the appropriate one. And to the extent that we can make that comparison, which country is really doing more, or which countries are really doing more to tamp down, to silence critics, that's the harm to our democracy. And right now I see that more in the United States than I see in Europe or the UK.
Thank you, Professor. And I'd just like to say to you, welcome. I have a lot of British friends and respect for Britain. I have a great time when I'm there, but I'm happy we won the war.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Arizona is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, the statement that Trump is bringing us to the edge of being an autocratic state in and of itself disproves the premise of that statement. Think about that. It's absurd. Under the First Amendment, the general proposition is that government should not be regulating the content of its citizens' speech. You have the opposing idea that it's the responsibility of government to decide not only what its citizens should think, but what content they are allowed to see and engage with. To some, the reality of the government regulation of speech may sound like it's a distant, authoritarian notion that won't come to the United States of America, but I would ask you to just think back again. I'm reminded of Orwell's 1984. Think of the memory hole that people are trying to memory hole right now, some even on this panel, sir, who don't want you to realize how bad a government can be when it attempts to censor right here in the United States. For instance, President Obama, this is from an article I'd asked unanimous consent. President Obama has been the most aggressive administration in history, not only going after whistleblowers, but after pursuing reporters who write their stories. How about this one, the Biden legacy? How about this whole stack, and I'll put these in just a second. It's convenient to memory hole what the Biden administration did, what they did to suppress dissent and contrary opinion. I'll get into that in a second. The actions of European governments show that the type of censorship by government is not only possible, but very much doable. Under the guise of public safety, government officials in Europe have suppressed and arrested individuals who have simply engaged in political speech that is arbitrarily deemed to be unspeakable by the government. This kind of regime doesn't just appear on the scene, though. It takes time to develop. And we've seen it here, and that's why I'm taking this opportunity to remind you that FISA must be reformed. FISA must be reformed. So, Mr. Price, you alluded to this, and so I have this document right here that compares the GDP growth of EU versus the U.S. 1998 to 2023. And the U.S. has grown about 87%, almost 90%. The EU has increased its GDP by about 13%. So you have almost a 6x variable there. The question is, when you set these kind of draconian fines and you set up a system that is amorphous and almost indefinable, might it not also have some more than just even the safety, ostensible safety of the society? Might it lead to trying to regulate when you can't innovate?
I think that's very much the case, sir. We've seen it not just in the area of speech, but obviously, as we were discussing, the Digital Markets Act, data protection, and so on. And Europe is facing some very serious structural problems demographically, financially. And a lot of what I think is inspiring the DSA is what we saw from Germany beginning after the election of President Trump and after Brexit, which is to control the narrative, slow down speech. And into that, then, they're throwing a very wide net out that's affecting all kinds of legitimate speech. We talked about my client, Peter Osman, in Finland, who's prosecuted for sharing a tweet from the Bible. It's absolutely outrageous. And that becomes now the standard that the DSA will set, not just for Europe, but possibly and predictably globally.
And similarly, Mr. Reed, that's what's going to happen to your app innovators. They're not going to be able to have access to 440 million people in a marketplace in Europe without having to go through essentially government censorship.
Well, I think you hit it earlier when you said that their focus has been on regulating or adding legislation. And it isn't one piece of regulation or one piece of legislation that has caused problems for our innovators, both in the UK, in the EU, and in America. It's been the stacking effect. Because if you start with one regulation, you say, I can handle that, I'll build that into my business. It's when you have one, then two, then four, then six. So what's been the biggest problem for growth has been their answer is that old quip, the beatings will continue until morale improves. We often feel that way about regulation. Innovation will get regulated until we get more innovation, and I don't think that will work out.
Thanks, Mr. Reed. Now I'll finish with you, Mr. Farage. What happened to the great countries of the West? I mean, seriously, and their liberal understanding of civil rights and the ability to speak one's mind openly without fear of arrest or censorship or abuse of harassment by the government?
I think what went wrong in many ways is we forgot why we actually had those liberties and had those freedoms in the first place. We forgot that, as I mentioned, I touched on earlier, we forgot the huge sacrifices that were made by citizens alive at that time to defend those principles against tyranny and against dictatorship. We've kind of lost our way in understanding why we are as we are. And I think that has permeated through the education system, or I'm not sure we've been teaching good values. The slavery comment was made earlier. I completely understand there's nothing good about slavery. But take our country, we spent decades driving slavery off the high seas. So whilst we were perpetrators to begin with, we actually, in the end, drove it off the high seas. So we need to teach our kids a sense of balance about our history, about the sacrifice that's been made. That's my feeling.
Mr. Chairman, I have some unanimous consent.
Gentleman is recognized.
This one, GDP growth comparison EU to US 1998 to 2023. This one, Biden's press freedom legacy, empty words and hypocrisy. Massive government censorship during and about COVID from the New Civil Liberties Alliance. The Fifth Circuit agrees that federal officials unconstitutionally coerced or encouraged online censorship under the Biden administration. This one, information during the pandemic suppressed. Feds blew $267 million fighting misinformation under Biden as Trump vows to ban censorship cartel. This one, how the FBI violated the privacy rights of tens of thousands of Americans. This one, Inspector General report on FBI's FISA abuse tells us one thing: we need radical reform. This one, UK comedy writer Graham Linehan arrested over social media posts criticizing trans activists. Why did Lucy Connolly receive a 31-month sentence for Southport tweet? Policing thought crime should have no place in the UK. Britain's emerging police state. Knock, knock, it's the thought police. As thousands of criminals go uninvestigated, detectives call on a grandmother. Her crime, she went on Facebook to criticize Labour councillors. This one, UK steps up free speech crackdown as armed police arrest comedy writer Graham Linehan at Heathrow Airport. And this one, Britain's new thought police, how Labour plans to police your online speech. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We bet. Without objection.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to offer two unanimous consent requests. I'm not going to challenge the forest as much as the gentleman and the others, but two that records letters to you, one to you and one to Commissioner Verkunen, pushing back on the framing of this hearing from 30 EU and U.S. academics.
Thank you. Without objection. Gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Farage, welcome to the United States of America. This isn't your first time here, correct?
Correct.
You were here in 2024 in Milwaukee, weren't you?
I've been coming here since 1982 on a very regular basis. I work for American companies.
What
for many,
purpose
many
were
years.
you coming to Milwaukee for? Why did you come to Milwaukee?
I've been in Milwaukee many times. I think that particular
in
event
2024
was a convention.
the convention, the Republican
I think
convention.
that's right. I think you're right.
The Trump convention.
I think you're right. Very good.
Where Trump was coronated.
Well, he won, didn't he? I mean, yes,
he had
that's
already
what
won.
happened,
We already knew who had won.
It's called political
And it was
parties.
his coronation, and you attended, and you also attended Trump rallies, correct?
I've attended lots of Trump rallies.
Make America Great Again rallies,
Yes.
many of them. And you
upbeat,
publicly,
optimistic, happy,
you-
wonderful, joyous
you
events.
publicly
Yes.
endorsed his...
I've thoroughly enjoyed them. I've even spoken of
You
them.
endorsed him for president, and you attended his election night watch party.
I did.
And you consider Trump to be your mentor, correct?
No.
He's not your mentor?
No.
But he
Sorry.
He is somebody who you want the support of, and you have the support.
Yes,
of.
I do. I think he's a very, very brave man.
Because you are getting ready to run for Prime Minister of Great Britain, correct?
Oh, I've been trying for years, yeah.
And as it stands right now, you head up a party. How many seats in the Parliament are there?
651, if you include the Speaker, that is.
650.
Yes.
And how many how many seats does your party hold?
How many seats do the opinion polls say we're going to get next time? Is that your
No,
question?
I mean,
I
the
see.
numbers don't lie. You only have 4 seats, right?
I'm afraid so, yes.
And so you are indeed the leader of a fringe party.
Oh, I'm a fringe, all right. Don't worry about that. Yes, absolutely. Everything I've ever done.
And as a fringe party leader seeking to run for Prime Minister of Great Britain, you need a lot of money in order to blow up like the MAGA movement has blown up.
What you need is a message of truth and a message of hope. And
well, you need money also, right?
Well, money's helpful, but it's not the primary thing you need.
So the first thing that came out of the chair's mouth this morning during his opening statement had to do with Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And you're carrying water for Elon Musk today, aren't you?
From what I can see, Elon Musk is abusive about me virtually every single week. But it's a free country, so
but you never stop trying to ingratiate yourself with him.
Wrong.
Well, I mean,
wrong.
You are familiar with the fact.
Wrong. I have.
You are familiar with the fact, Mr. Farage,
I have had a public fallout with Elon Musk.
That Donald Trump's campaign benefited to the extent of $250 million from Elon Musk.
How much?
You are familiar with that, correct?
How much did Mr. Zuckerberg give to the Democrats? I mean, this is what happens, and people are.
Well, he didn't give any money
on Musk. Let me be clear.
To the Democrats. He was sitting behind Trump with the rest of the tech bros, and you are here today to impress all of those tech bros, including Elon Musk. Isn't that correct?
I'm going to answer your question very, very honestly.
You need money from Elon Musk in order to get elected Prime Minister of Great Britain. That's the bottom line. Isn't that correct?
We consider all day, as long as the chairman allows us. I don't mind. I had a very public falling out with Elon Musk.
But you're still trying to get some money from him, though.
Over a political issue.
It's not about the prior disputes.
I'm sorry,
you're trying to
fundamental.
You're trying to ingratiate yourself with the tech bros by coming over here and trying to.
Can I get a cup of coffee or something?
And you're arguing.
We'll be here a long time.
What you're arguing is that the citizens of Great Britain should pay a tariff if these tech companies are not allowed to violate the laws of Great Britain.
No, I'm not. That was a falsehood put out by the British Prime Minister today.
You didn't say in your
Prime Minister's
statement.
questions. I have never.
In your statement.
I have never suggested any of the kind.
You don't call
My statement
for tariffs
as
tools to
My
force
statement is
Great
very
Britain.
clear. My statement is very.
You are not calling.
It might surprise you.
You are not
Mr.
calling
Johnson.
for.
It might surprise you to know
tariffs and trade sanctions.
Trade, you may not know this, but trade between our countries is actually rather important. You are the biggest investor in our country, and we're the biggest investor in yours.
Time of the gentleman from Georgia has expired, but the gentleman should be able to say some kind of response.
Here to the United
Regular
States
order, Mr. Chairman.
He's
been rude, he's been disgusting, he's been hilarious.
Hang on. No. The gentleman's time has expired. I feel like we should give Mr. Farage a chance to respond to one of the many questions he was not allowed to respond to. So we'll give you 30 seconds, Mr. Farage, and then we'll move on to our next one. Because I know Mr. Farage does have to leave in about an hour, so we want to get through as many members as we can.
Number one, I had a public fallout over a political issue with Elon Musk. I can't be bullied by anybody. I haven't changed my mind. Last time I looked, he was being spectacularly rude about me yesterday. That's life. If we believe in free speech, we live with it. What I have made very clear.
Fixated on.
What I've made. Sorry, no, this is my turn. I think.
Yeah, you got another
Thank
15
you, Mr.
seconds.
Chairman. What I've made perfectly clear in this paper is the situation we've got with successive pieces of legislation, including now the Online Safety Act, is a danger to trade between our countries. Yep. And allies and friends and trading partners have honest conversations with each other. I hope many American companies and politicians have honest conversations with the British government. I've not suggested sanctions at all in any way.
Good luck on your race.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd remind my colleague from Georgia that President Trump was openly nominated after decisively winning the primary votes across the country. That's in open contrast to the Democratic nominee, who has decreed the nominee of her party in spite of the fact she did not receive a single primary vote. So I would be a little careful if I were him about talking about coronations. I do agree with my Democratic colleagues that we need to be on guard against suppression of free speech, whether it's coming from the left or the right. But I disagree with them that the chief executive regulating the executive branch's communications or conforming executive agencies and grantees to executive policy is somehow a threat to free speech. The executive branch is designed to speak with one voice, a voice chosen every 4 years by the people. And I disagree with them that suing for defamation is an infringement on speech in a legal system where the truth is an absolute defense. The threat to democracy is from the government regulating other people's communications. Now, we're now discovering that the Biden administration used the FBI to pressure tech companies to censor the communications of the American people over a free discussion of everything from COVID policy and origins, the Russian collusion hoax, Biden family influence peddling, climate change. I myself was the victim of this censorship when I warned of the damage that the COVID lockdowns were causing. Now, democracy assumes that the best way to separate truth from lies, or wisdom from folly, or good from evil, or love from hate, is to place the two of them side by side and then trust the common sense and good judgment of the people to know the difference. But this assumes that the people have full and unfettered freedom to express themselves and to challenge the claims and opinions of each other. Now, some of our colleagues seem to be suggesting that we should transfer that prerogative from the people to the government. That's the very definition of authoritarianism. Mr. Farage, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you know, we are, as citizens, we should be free to make our minds up, to express our opinions, to a large extent to make our own mistakes, provided, and we all know there's a limit to free speech. You know, the professor talked about incitement earlier, and of course, you know, we would be absolutely joined together on that. We don't want incitement, we don't accept incitement, and if people put out something irrational or insightful, but very quickly put their hands up and apologize and learn their lesson, that's kind of how the world is. I do not want government to be the arbiter of what I should think.
We have a word for that. It's demos kratis, ruled by the people.
So yes,
democracy. I'm
with you on that. I also agree with you that COVID, I touched on this earlier, it was during COVID when rational debate about many important issues, be it mask wearing, be it lockdowns, rational debate on these things was frankly stamped out, and this was supported by big social media companies, many, not GB News obviously, but many TV stations, etc. It's a very dark period that we're coming out of.
In this country, what we're discovering is that was being done under pressure by the FBI, directed by the executive branch of the government under Joe Biden. But just briefly, how did this happen to the UK and the EU, and what lessons should we be drawing here today?
Well, we joined the EU half a century ago, or the EEC as it was then called. It was a huge mistake, in my opinion. We forgot about common law, the kind of law that you guys have always enjoyed too. We sort of gradually transferred to a European way of thinking. We incorporated a Human Rights Act, which kind of meant really that, you know, as opposed to being born free, under a human rights regime, the state gives you your rights, for which you're supposed to be incredibly grateful, but they can take them away whenever they like. So we lost our bearings. The UK lost its way. It became obsessed about doing things a European way, countries, frankly, that don't have that history of liberty, freedom, and democracy that we do.
Finally, what do you see as the shape of things to come? Are we going to regain these freedoms or lose them?
Well, ultimately, the people have to get what they vote for. And one of the reasons that we are seeing an extraordinary political revolution that is happening in parts of Europe, and if you believe the polls, what is happening in the United Kingdom right now is we want a government that comes in and gets rid of all these laws and starts again. And starts on the basis, yes, we want to try and protect kids, and we will do whatever we can that is practical to protect kids from serious harm online. But we will get back to the idea that I can insult you, you could insult me, Mr. Raskin and I can have our chats, but we do it, in a spirit that's not insightful and in a way that honours those who built our great countries.